As you guys may or may not know, I was recently in Egypt for Vanishing Inc.'s The Retreat, Egypt, and while I was there, Michael Ammar was there as one of the guests. So I took the opportunity to talk to him, interview him about his book, how he got started with magic books and things like that. I think you'll find it very interesting, and he is writing a second book, so listen all the way through to hear some of those details and enjoy this interview with Michael Ammar. But before we do that, let me tell you about the sponsor of this week's episode, Don's Magic and Books. My friend Don Bursell, who runs Don's Magic and Books, is a certified book lover. And I think one of the coolest things that he does is he helps books to find a new home, a new library where they can be incorporated into someone's magic study. So what does that mean? That means that he sells both new and used books. So Don's Magic and Books is the kind of place you go to shop when you're looking for something special or rare, or even the latest and greatest like Nth Degree. Check out his shop via the link down in the description below, and when you do, you're going to see all kinds of books, and what you'll notice is that they all are fantastic deals. Even though Don is selling some of these books that could be marked up to extremely high prices, his prices are so reasonable you won't have to think twice about ordering from him. And he offers fast and free shipping if you meet minimum thresholds and live in the United States. Definitely check out Don's Magic and Books if you are in the market for a new or used book. Tell him I sent you, and enjoy shopping with Don this week. So I was part of the Chazpro Book Club back in the day.
Wow, nice.
If you remember Chazpro.
Yeah,
and your book came out in the 90s.
Yep, 91 or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And shortly after that, somewhere in the middle of the 90s, I got interested in magic books. And yours had been one that I'd always heard so much about. So many legends, around this book. And if you just own this book, you hold the keys to the kingdom. And so I ended up buying it as one of my first. I bought 3 books together. My very first magic book purchases. I bought Royal Road to Card Magic, Bobo's New Modern Coin Magic, and The Magic of Michael Ammar.
Wow.
And
that's heavy company.
well, and it's
heavy
always
company.
It's always been one of my favorite books.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank
really.
you. I applaud your judgment.
Well, and it's like I told you earlier this week that you had essays in there about different things, and
I just wanted it to be interesting.
Yeah.
And there were things that I'd done in other ways, like the booking sheets and the negotiating stuff that I'd done in other mediums. Once it came down to it, it's like it would be nice if the book is really good and really something that somebody could pick up and enjoy reading, whether they're trying to learn a new trick or not, So there's a bunch of different thoughts in there. Making magic memorable, the negotiating, higher performance fees, and some of the theory. The theory stuff were thoughts that I had written in college.
Really?
I minored in psychology and would sit in the back of my psychology classes, and that could be a magic thing. And I started writing and
like inside the men's hut. I remember that.
Entering the men's hut,
guarding kind of an empty room.
Right, guarding empty secrets, and yet you still preserve that,
right?
Because now you're in there.
Yeah, exactly. You want to keep the outsider down.
Right.
What prompted you to write a book? Because at that point you'd already done DVDs, right? Or not at the time.
No DVDs yet. Oh, I early on. I was early on in the Videonics thing.
Okay.
So that was 80, 81, 82. So which led to the Revelations thing in 84. With the professor.
Right.
There were early, but the thing about those early videos, they were essentially a lecture, which isn't really using the medium for what it could potentially do.
Right.
And frankly, that idea almost ruined the video industry, because by the end of the 80s, people had gotten used to the idea that videos are going to be expensive. They were like $70, $75 a video, and magicians hesitated to put all the work in. They felt like magicians are going to microanalyze this, and they're going to take everything I do, and they're going to so they were intimidated by what might result from recording their act.
Wow.
and giving it to magicians. So they weren't trying to think of better ways to use the medium. It was still just video a lecture kind of thing. And I'd been studying things like super learning and stuff like that, and all these learning techniques, and it's just like, why don't we do these things for magic? Isn't magic important enough?
Interesting.
For somebody to say, well, let's try to think of a really good way to learn this.
Right.
Right? And what would happen if you took all that super learning stuff and applied it to a challenging sleight,
Yeah.
for the camera. And so those ultimately led to the Easy to Master videos. But the book, Louis Falanga, just started L&L and had already published a few books. And he wanted to publish, let's do a Michael Ammar book. And it's like, well, all my stuff has been in lecture notes of one kind or another over the last 10 years. So I think that, the horses are out of the corral on most of this stuff, but if we pull it all together, maybe it might
Make a compilation.
have
of
some
sorts.
substance to it. Actually, there's a couple of things that weren't in notes yet. I could do that. And then, I could add, that manual of the psychology stuff. And so it started to say, okay, this ought to be a decent book.
Right.
But I had no idea, how well it would sell.
Oh, I have to think that it's one of the best-selling magic books of all time.
4 print runs in 1 year. The first year, 4 print runs.
Wow.
Well, I certainly wished I had asked for a royalty.
Right.
But Louis, we had worked out a thing. So, well, if you reprint, give me 100 copies. How about it, if you reprint? Okay, no problem. So with each reprint, I did get 100 copies, which was great. Louis was always very fair, and never missed a royalty payment. He was the best. I really, really miss Louis. But so it was a surprise to me.
Wow.
It was a surprise to everybody, I think, that it just hit some special chord, and it was a beautiful dust jacket. And,
Oh yeah. The book is beautiful.
Yeah, something that people would like to own this, and so that was really great. But at that point, I felt like, well, that covers me up to 1990.
Right.
And the only other book after that was the Cups and Balls book, which was a special project.
Yep.
But so now it's been 34 years.
Wow.
Since I've published anything, print, So it's like none of the stuff I did on videos were in print,
Right.
And every time I did a video, I tried to put a couple of new things in each one of those videos. So in the end, as I look back on it, it's like there's way more stuff that had never been published than in the first one, and I did kind of save a couple of things that I haven't taught in lectures yet, because it's still nice to have something that the magicians aren't sure
Right.
exactly.
Hold something back. Leave them wanting a little
so
more.
there was just a few things. Generally speaking, I thought, well, they want to learn what I really do, so I'm going to really explain, everything about this. Still, there's a couple of things that would be nice if they don't know exactly what.
And I think that what you just touched on is why so many people, your book was so well received, is because everything in there's a worker. It's stuff that you really did.
Yes.
You know.
And that will be even more so true of the next one, because I'm thinking I'll start with my opener and, explain all the way through, here's my closer, and
How you structure a show in a way, because
Yeah.
you're getting the pieces
Yeah.
and how you're...
And particularly one of the really nice things, which is like the lemon restoration and build a lemon repeat, is structured throughout the show. So there's ways that comes relevant.
Got it.
So that it's not just, let me show you another trick. It actually becomes a relevant thing to do based on the theme of what's come before. To give you a story. The whole point is to give you something maybe that you'll remember the rest of your life, maybe that you'll talk about in some way for the rest of your life. And so, it comes down to, well, do you think what you'll tell people about this? What do you think it'll be? I mean, what do you think they'll think?
Yeah.
It's like, Well, here's an idea. I mean, it's still got your name on it, right? Fold it in half, roll it up, and put it back inside the, you know. And here, I'll do this, heel, you know, and there.
And it seems more spontaneous too.
And tie into that theme, because, you know, I give this lemon out, there you go. Then I go back and I start packing my stuff up like the show's over. And when clearly there's this, you know, hanging issue.
Right, a big unanswered question in a way.
Oh. I know what you're thinking. I tell you what I'd do. I'd wait till I got home, you know. Then you can call your friends, tell them to come over, cut the lemon open, and it will be an even better story. You know, so it's relevant in a way, and it becomes a genuine issue. What do you think we should do?
Right. Should we cut it open now, or should we wait?
Should you take it home or not? And really, originally, I was going to end there. I was going to just say, let's not resolve this. Let's not bring that closure yet. You know, let's let this extend beyond the moment. And then, of course, you know, maybe there's a little note on the money on the inside. Let's keep this between us. You know, you thank you for being such a big part of the show.
Right.
You know, and you know, and so they still get a payoff. You know, but on a couple of occasions when people say, "Yeah, I'll take it home," you know, great. You know,
right.
How do you guys feel about that? Is everybody okay with that? And basically the audience says no.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Cut it open now. Oh, okay. Yeah, let me just do it carefully, because it's, you know, you can't go, you know.
Right.
Right. There'll be 250s.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like it's got a core.
Right.
Right. And there's a lot of little work on why this has to work a very specific way every time. And what you want is to pull this off in the perfect image of a bill sticking up from a half lemon. And I don't want it rolled so tight that it looks like it should look soft.
Right.
Like when it vanished and reappeared inside, it was just slightly folded.
Yep.
You know? But to make sure that it stays in that lower half and to make sure that's perfect takes some work, you know. And there's lots of little things that makes it special, you know, because they're holding that lemon. They could take it home if they wanted to. So there's got to be a way to really get in there and really seal it back.
Well, I love this.
And have it be in somebody's hands.
Yeah.
You know. And should I do it or not? You know, so that's, you know,
that's in the new book. That's the Magic of Michael Ammar.
Right, and that's why, you know, it starts from the beginning. You know, the first thing you do when I hand out some of the stuff I'm going to be using in the show.
Check it out.
Okay,
Yeah.
hang on to this.
Yeah.
I'm going to use a scarf. I'm going to use it, you know, and these are the things I'm going to use in the show. And then you start taking them back and doing things with them, and then the lemon, you know, turns out to be the very, very final thing.
Yeah.
From the very first thing to the very final thing.
You got your bookends. You're bookending the show here.
Right, right. So, which is, I just wanted some structure.
Yeah.
Other than just a bunch of separate tricks.
For my next trick, I'm doing this, and
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like it's going to be great. How far along are you in writing this?
About halfway.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, a good. Maybe a little more than halfway.
That's amazing.
Yeah, a little more than halfway. And what I'm writing right now, again, I don't know how, but it is what I think is the best thing I've ever come up with. And it starts with, I've got this tightly folded manila envelope, so it's just, rubber bands around it. This is going to be important. So before I start, I want you to hang on to this. Okay. Now, I told my kids I was going to come and do a show, and they said, "Hey, do a trick with my deck, right?" And their deck is this weird mix of, old maid cards and playing cards and hotel keys, and it's just a mix.
Yeah.
And here, you examine those and mix them up, and we're going to take some of these and we're going to make something meaningful to somebody here. And here, well, hand out 4 or 5 of them, and let's go through and let's see if this means anything to anybody here. Okay, so what do you have? I have an alphabet card. What letter do you have? A. Astronaut. Astronaut. Is anybody here an astronaut?
Wouldn't that be something?
No. Well, okay, we'll come back to it. What do you have? And then you go through, and they each have, I got a hotel key, I've got a playing card, and all this stuff. None of which seems to mean anything to anybody, which the beauty of this is they have no idea where this is going. They have no idea.
You're just taking them on a journey, and everybody's along.
Yeah,
and
it's
no idea.
like, and so much magic is, foreshadowed.
Yes.
And I'm tearing this newspaper up. Hey, I bet he's going to put it back together.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
He writes something down. It's got to be a prediction.
Yeah, the outcome
is
is
foregone conclusion.
Yeah, and this one, I don't even know if I want to say what happens.
No, hold that.
Yeah, because it's really
that's cool.
An amazing thing. They have no idea where you're going. At some point, it's like, well, it must have something to do with this envelope. Right. So let's take the rubber bands off the envelope and see what we've got. And the envelope has a payoff.
That's awesome.
A really good payoff. A really good, unexpected payoff.
Yeah. Now you've got me. I was already excited, but now you got me really excited.
It's one of the things. One of the few things that I've almost never performed when magicians were around.
Because, you just didn't want them to see it, try to copy it, right?
Yeah, well, it's just,
It's that good. So I want to ask you about, there's a rumor from a friend of mine, said there was a kind of an Easter egg, if you will, on the cover of Magic of Michael Ammar, the dust jacket, that you had your arm in a cast.
Oh, yeah, that was a funny thing. It was supposed to be, something up hands and face kind of thing. But my arm was broke. I broke my left wrist, and it was in a cast. And we had to kind of take my sleeve apart to get my coat on because of the cast. And so it was going to be just this, and I'm holding here.
Your hand was glowing in the original,
right?
Yeah,
so all the attention was here. But in that photo, and we're going to crop it. It's like, you know what? You can, if you look, you can tell that hand something is off.
Yeah.
It's really, really big, or something like that.
Right.
And it's like, you know what? We should leave it there. Let's not crop it. Let's see if anybody says anything. And couple of people.
Yeah. I never noticed it until a friend said something about it. Said, "Oh yeah, his arm's in a cast now."
Yeah, it's just it's not the kind of thing that you're drawn to.
No.
Yeah.
So if you have your copy at home, pull it off the shelf and take a look. Right? And now you're going to have come up with a similar Easter egg for the newcomer.
What to do on
don't break your leg or anything.
Right.
But, what could you do to have another little Easter egg like that?
Yes, because it was unintended. Is what makes it.
Yeah, it's good. Right. It's got to happen.
Makes it neat.
It's gotta be.
I mean, I'm not sure I'm clever enough to to think of something that isn't just the nature of it. But again, this other book will have a lot of theory, much more actually, of structured thoughts on magic. Anecdotes of some of the most important things that I felt I learned from the professor.
Oh, even better.
This was an important moment, and this really has, for me, this was a relevant interaction and gave me an insight that I could transfer to lots of other situations. And that, and there's a little handful of those special moments, that really stood out with the professor,
So, when are we talking about? You said you're over halfway through, or maybe,
as I look at it, I think, hey, this could be out by Christmas, but no, maybe this time next year.
Maybe 2025 sometime.
Yeah. I think that's reasonable. A reasonable projection.
And is Hannah going to illustrate it again? She illustrated your first one,
right,
didn't she?
Right. You're right. No. She might take the pictures this time.
Yeah, there you go.
But she's actually pretty busy herself now. So now she's got a job.
Right. She can't be illustrating
it's like
your
a
books.
Real job. I mean, like 10 or 11 hours a day.
Yeah.
5 days a week, and so it's like,
Different
so
time.
Probably not.
Well, no worries. I think it sounds amazing with what you've told us about here, and I know that
I speak for myself, but obviously I think a lot of the viewers are really going to look forward to that. I think that there's still a lot of demand for, everybody respects the way you teach things, whether it's on books or DVDs or videos, whatever.
Yeah, well, thank you. But things like the Build a Peanut, is I close with that sometime. If I'm not doing the Build a Lemon, that's my Build to Impossible Location closer. And there's work on that. I mean, Penguin is now releasing it as a thing, but it'll be in the book as well. I mean, but that's just amongst all that stuff that went on video that's never been in print.
Wow, we're looking forward to it.
But it's part of the show, and here's where that goes in the show, and that sort of thing. And I got a linking rings routine that I've been doing for years. Developed. When I was working with the professor, one of the things that I think he found interesting was I'm not going to do it exactly the way that you did it. I'm not just out to learn your cups and balls routine. And I'm not just out to learn the Symphony of the Ring. I'll start with learning those, and then I'll think about how I might go about that differently.
Inject a little myself into it.
Right. That's what he wants you to think. And so I said, okay, I've changed. I want to do a 5-ring routine because I'm not confident of the 3-for-3 switch, but I think with a single and 2 singles in the key and a double, that I can convincingly show all of them separate to begin with.
Right.
And then I can do several phases that don't involve the key. You know? And so it links several links and unlinks with things that get handed out. And now you bring out the key, and a spectator gets to examine things. These are the things that were important to me. And yet he can't take the rings apart. Yet the rings that he couldn't take apart come apart.
Oh, cool.
And still you have this logical conclusion. The same linking rings, the same effect happens over and over.
That's
so to put a progression in there.
How do you keep things interesting for the audience so it doesn't seem like
it's moving forward, and there is an ending that seems perfectly logical to end that sequence with. So that was, at the same time I'm working with the cups and balls, it's like I could do that and I could eliminate cups. So now I'm doing this, and I've got this to where I've got this different switch, got this different count,
Amazing.
and that's, he appreciated that I don't, if you can just, I realized I could just read the book.
Right.
But maybe you can teach me your routine.
Right.
That wasn't what he was looking for,
Amazing.
He was looking for somebody to ask good questions and come back the next night and show what we were talking about. Here's kind of how that turned out.
Put some thought into it.
Right. And I'm thinking on my own.
Right.
And
that's right.
Coming back.
It's not all spoon feeding.
Yeah. And I think he appreciated that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Do you remember what your first book was?
Well, yeah, there was a lot of the public books. I did a lot from the library and beginners books. But the first, once I finally got a Magic catalog and stuff like that, I ordered Stars of Magic.
Oh, great book.
I ordered Expert Card Technique, and Expert Card Technique was first, right? And I'm reading this, and it's talking about double and triple and quadruple lifts.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is a book of fiction. this, in the Zingoni thing, it's like, well, if your fingernail is a certain length, you can pick 21 cards up every time.
Right.
You gotta be kidding me, So I sold the book to a guy who's still in Magic.
That's great.
But he was a younger guy in my hometown in Bluefield. I sold it to him for $5. And then a few months later, I went to my first Magic convention, the Philadelphia SAM convention. So I went to the SAM convention in Bellevue, Stratford. That's where the Legionnaire's disease was. They were the week after.
Wow.
It was almost the conjurer's disease. and some people said that it was caused dove feathers and stuff got into the ventilation.
Wonder where that could have come from.
Right, and so it's like, but. At that convention, a guy really fooled me with a card trick. And he said, can you just show me how that was done? And the guy said, well, first you do a double lift, so you turn 2 cards over at the same time. I had a book that talked about that. I didn't know
That was real.
you could do that, and it fooled me. As soon as I get back, I'm going to buy that book back off that kid, and I did.
Oh, that's amazing.
But he saw it $10. It was $5 2 months ago, but $10. Okay, and I told myself, now that I know you can do it, I'm going to learn everything in this book.
Wow.
Everything in this book, beginning to end. And at one point, I could do everything in that book. But then the next one that really was influential was Stars of Magic.
Oh, I love that
You
book.
know,
Love that book.
and so I fell in love with books. You know, being in West Virginia, and you know, I devoured, I devoured everything I could get my hands on. And it got to the, you know, it was like, okay, I read all the books that make sense to the book. Oh, there's magazines, there's old magazines. I started going and getting old magazines and reading those. And so I really, you know, and then the chance to meet some of these guys whose books I had read.
Like you now. It's,
By the time by 78 had come around, I'd read 3 or 4 Harry Lorraine books. Now I'm going to the SAM convention in New York. That's the guy. That's Harry Lorraine right there.
Right.
Right. You know, and ended up in a conversation. The guy comes, oh, well, you know, you do some interesting stuff. He came up to the hotel room with Gary Plants and I. Oh, and Gary Plants just recently sent me the audio recording of that session.
Wow.
That's how good Gary Plants is. Gary Plants kept the cassettes and digitized the cassettes when Harry Lorraine was hanging out with us in the room. Gary's the best with just collecting, keeping them, you know. Many times I've had to say, do you have a picture of me with Paul Daniels by any chance? You know, and yeah, from the 1978 Desert Seminar. You know, that kind of thing. I mean, he's really an amazing guy. But yeah, so when people say, hey, it's interesting, you know, I'm glad to meet you. I read your book, and that was influential to me. I know exactly how that feels.
Wow.
I remember exactly how that feels, because I was that guy. That was that guy a dozen times with different magicians that I would meet. It's like meeting Ed Marlowe, you know, meeting Nye Vernon, you know. So believe me,
Yeah.
I get it.
And I feel like that's a lesson for everybody watching. The magic is such a giving community anyway. Every time I've, you know, taken the say guts to go up and introduce myself, it's been rewarding. But no more so than I would say here, getting to meet you.
Oh, you're so
No,
kind.
You're
but
the
believe me,
kind one, yeah.
I understand that feeling, and it's very flattering, and it's a wonderful thing to feel like you can give other people that feeling, because I vividly remember it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time, Michael. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's been a pleasure, you know.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Well, thanks for watching. Until next time, keep reading.